Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a critical vulnerability in the global supply chain. This is an issue that absolutely everyone, from logistics professionals and massive importers to students of global trade, really needs to understand. Just think about this for a second. Every single day, millions of barrels of oil and massive volumes of consumer goods flow through one very narrow, heavily congested passage. It begs a pretty terrifying question, honestly. What actually happens when this vital flow just stops? So here's how we're going to break down the anatomy of this crisis. We'll start with the maritime jugular itself, walk through the disruption scenario, unpack the massive financial and operational fallout, and finally look at some strategic alternatives. Let's start with part one, the maritime jugular. The Strait of Hormuz is, without a doubt, the most critical choke point for global oil tankers, LNG vessels, and enormous container ships. For South Asia, it is quite literally an energy lifeline. Entire countries rely heavily on this exact route for petroleum, liquefied natural gas, and critical raw materials just to keep their lights on and industries running. If you're involved in global trade, your supply chain almost certainly touches this corridor in some way.
Which brings us to part two, the disruption scenario.
Whenever geopolitical tensions or security threats arise, this critical artery closes. Now, under standard conditions, ships take the shortest, most cost-effective path. But when crisis mode is activated, those same ships are forced into an incredibly long, arduous journey. We're talking about literally circumnavigating the entire African continent just to reach their destination safely. It's a massive detour. And this rerouting sets off a massive cascading domino effects. First up, you get what the industry calls blank sailings. Basically, shipping lines have to cancel their scheduled port calls because the ships simply aren't arriving. Step two, that completely destroys schedule reliability. Predictability goes right out the window. And step three, this causes a catastrophic failure of modern just-in-time manufacturing worldwide. Factories just don't get the parts they need when they need them. But here's the real kicker. The financial pain actually starts before a ship even moves. We see an immediate insurance surge. Maritime insurance companies instantly spike their war risk premiums. This adds massive, unexpected overhead to every single container trying to navigate the region. Suddenly, it becomes incredibly expensive just to float the cargo. And that leads right into part three, financial and operational fallout. We're not talking about a tiny bump in your shipping bill here. Ocean freight rates can absolutely skyrocket by over 400%. This is driven by wild fuel surcharge escalations, thanks to that massive detour around Africa we mentioned earlier, combined with incredibly complex compliance costs. Then you have to deal with port congestion surcharges. Imagine this. When those severely delayed ships finally do make it to port, they tend to all arrive at the exact same time. The ports immediately face total gridlock. They just can't process that kind of simultaneous volume, which triggers expensive congestion surcharges and forces even more blank sailings. The end result? Total supply chain paralysis. The impact on inventory is visceral. Because goods are stuck at sea for weeks on end, warehouses run completely dry. Then, suddenly they get overwhelmed when everything arrives at once. It's a massive whipsaw effect that causes severe shortages, wild supply and demand mismatches, and forces manufacturing lines to completely shut down. So with all that gloom and doom laid out, you've got to be wondering, how do we actually perform bypass surgery on global trade? How do we bypass a choke point of this magnitude? Let's look at part four, strategic alternatives. To mitigate these massive risks, governments and corporations are actively recalibrating trade routes. For example, there's IMEC, the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. This strategy cleverly combines maritime and rail to link South Asia to Europe, totally bypassing traditional choke points. Then you have things like the Chabahar port development, which focuses on building alternative infrastructure outside those immediate danger zones, ensuring trade keeps flowing even when a crisis hits. For anyone involved in global trade, this whole situation proves one undeniable fact. Relying on a single trade lane is a massive liability. Diversification isn't just some corporate buzzword anymore. It is the absolute key to survival in modern supply chain design. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to really chew on regarding your own risk mitigation. Is your supply chain surviving on just a single vulnerable route? Understanding alternative corridors like IMEC and actually planning for these sudden freight spikes could literally be the difference between your business thriving or shutting down entirely. Keep questioning your logistics, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next explainer.